The video that I posted earlier today, I talked about how that my grandfather sat there and watched men abuse me. Well, those men stopped with that when I was about 7. But where those men stopped, my oldest brother took up. My dad has children by other women besides my mom. My dad has, his oldest child is a boy, and his name is Leon Rollins. Leon Rollins is my brother. When I found out that I had an older brother, I thought that finally I would be safe. So when I met him, of course I want to be around him. But he's the one that mixed with the ex, abused me for 2 years, from age 7 to age 9. And no, again, it was not a secret. He did this each and every time when other kids was playing around. I was climbing trees with my other brothers, my younger brothers, and their friends and stuff. And my oldest brother, Leon, who is 9 years older than I am. So if I was 7, he was 16. He grabbed me by my arm and mixed with an X-Me right there at the bottom of the tree. And he did this for 2 years. And when I was 9, I went and I said to myself, he's not going to do this to me anymore. So I went into the kitchen and got a knife. And I went searching for him this time, because that we would go outside, but he always found us. And I don't remember exactly where I found him. I either found him at home or I found him in the woods with the little boys were. And I walked up to him with a knife in my hand, and I told him, because that I had in my hand and I had in my head that I was going to unalive him if he tried to touch me again, because that I wasn't going to put up with his abuse anymore. He even stuck his thing in my mouth before. And I told him, I don't know why. I said, I'm going to tell if you touch me again. I don't know why that spilled out of my mouth. But thing is, though, he seen that knife. And he looked at me like that I just hurt him so badly. And he never touched me again. As far as I know, my oldest brother, Leon Rollins, I was the only female he did that to, because the rest of them were boys. Now, if you see a 16, 17, I mean, at this time, he was 18. If you see an 18-year-old boy that's not mentally retarded or anything, hanging around kids that are, 6, 7, 8 years old, because back then they always made kids go outside and play. If you see that old child or that grown man hanging around with those kids, you know something is going on. I found out when we all were adults. And some of the boys came and told me about it, because they wanted to unleash too. Since that was my brother, they was wanting me to know what my brother did to them. And I did. I allowed them to release to me. And he did many little boys like that. And what make it so bad, it probably was like a year later. No, it wasn't a year later. It was just a little time afterwards. I went down and visited my dad. And my dad and my stepmama sat there and talk about my brother messing around with little boys as if the little boys wanted it. So they knew that my brother was messing around with those little boys. They knew it. No secret. And some of the boys would say, one of them actually said that I don't want to be around Leon, because every time when Leon around, he always wanted to F with a suck. So little boys were not protected either. Like I said, I was the only female that I know of that he did this to. And it lasted for 2 years. Until that somehow I got the courage to stand up for myself. That's why that I have complex post-traumatic stress syndrome, because that the traumas was one after the other, starting with my mother being unalive. And 2 weeks after that, you know, when I was 5 years old, she was unalive. 2 weeks after that, my auntie's boyfriend did that, and I told my auntie, and she cussed me out and all that. And then these men doing this to me. Then my brother did this to me. So I wasn't able to process anything. I didn't have time. And plus during this time, my auntie was physically abusing us so badly. Now, what would you think if you see a 3rd grade child with a black eye and you never even ask the child where did it come from? I remember just waiting for one of the teachers to say something to me about my black eye. Nobody never did. When I was in, I believe it was the 5th grade, my auntie told me to come here. It was one morning. She told me to come here. And I went to see what she wanted. And she just hauled off and just hit me in the face with a glass. And it cut me right here above my eye. You can still see an indentation where she, after all these years, stood on my eyebrow of her. And then I went to school. And I told my teacher, I said, hey, Mrs. Parker, do you see this? Do you see this? And she looked at me like I had dookie on myself. You know how that look, what you telling me for kind of look. But like a couple of days later, that's my first time with DHS. And I told DHS, tried to tell them everything anyway. But Collinsworth, she stopped me and told me, I don't want to hear it. You just fast. No, they did not take us away from the house. And plus that, not only did she did that to me, like the evening before, she stuck my baby brother's head into the toilet full of feces. My brother and I, we was in the front, and she called him back to the bathroom. I guess I thought they were kind of strange, so I followed him back there, and I seen her put my baby brother, he was about 6 years old, head into the toilet. The fear, and he screaming and crying. And what she did, I looked at her and she was just laughing. She thought that was so funny to what she did to my brother. And plus that, I can see that little, see another mark that she left right there. She gave me several black eyes and threw things in my face several times. But nobody never asked me where I got those marks from until I told her about, when my eyes was bleeding. Because my eye was still kind of was bleeding a little bit,